I see St. Peter at the pearly gates, I'll be begging him to let me in. He'll open up the book of life and say, first we gotta check your sins, boy. First we gotta check your sins. Well, I wish I hadn't stole that Hershey bar, 'cause now I just might burn in a lake of fire. That time I took money from the offering plate. St. Peter, can't we wipe that off my slate? And I'm sorry I cheated on my history quiz. I ended up failing that, and now I'm failing this. If I hadn't got drunk and thrown in jail, I'd have a better idea where my soul might dwell.
Something in the water taught me how to crawl. Something in the water taught me how to fall. Something in my blood.
How y'all doing? Welcome to another podcast. Something in the Water. I'm Uncle Dave Griffin,
I'm Sean Clark.
and we're here to tell you this about that. I don't know what's new.
What's new with you, dude? You written any songs lately?
Oh, I've still been writing.
Still?
You know, thank the Lord. Still been given the gift of gab, presence of mind to lay down them lines, you know, and
What have you been writing?
whatever comes, you know. I can't even remember.
What was the last one?
I think I got some in here. We're just trying to trip back through the pages of time here.
You write a song a day or what?
No, most of them, no, but they come when they want to, you know, and it's never a dull moment.
Yeah, mine come when they want to, but it's like twice a year.
No, it's not. It's just here and there, you know. I mean, you know, my phone's been dead for about 3 weeks, so I used to write things down in my phone, and
So what have you been doing?
struggling.
Why haven't you gotten a new phone yet?
Well, I don't want to break bad or anything, you know. I'm trying to salvage the old one because there's so much content on there that I'm afraid I'd lose if I can't resuscitate it.
Yeah, but that phone wasn't.
Don't you talk about my phone?
That phone wasn't the top of the line. I mean, I get trying to get your
No,
stuff
it
off
was
of
old. It was
I know.
old.
I
It
get
was
trying to get
ancient.
your content off of it, but while you're doing that, you could go buy another $50 phone.
And I
we could
talked
call
about
your
that
ass.
with Mr. Frank Sachs, my
A
phone
while ago when you walked
repairman.
away from the house and nobody knew where you were. We thought
Nobody
you were
can reach me. I've been that way for like 3 weeks now, and
It's
it
like
hurts.
the 80s.
It hurts. Because ain't that where we're at, though? That's exactly where we're at. We've come to depend on those little digital devices.
I was trying to call your old beeper number.
I ain't never had no beeper now. But
Page me.
it's like that. You know, you become limbless. Like the old girl in our last Deep End podcast,
Who?
where we was talking about the girl that was limbless.
Who?
I don't know. We had a whole thing going on. Go to the Deep End, subscribe, only $5 a month. You'll see what I'm talking
I don't remember
about.
the limbless.
Oh, we had a whole thing going on there about a girl that was limbless. And
This is a real person? I can't remember this.
no, it's all imaginary.
Well,
We just
maybe it's
went
an
out
imaginary
on we went
podcast.
out on a limb, and anyhow, that's for the Deep End.
Went out on a limb with some limbless.
But you feel like you're missing a limb when your cell phone is defunct, and that's the way it's been for me for about 3 weeks now, going on a month. But I hope to have it back by the time y'all are watching this.
How do you
I should
keep
have it
booking
back.
your gigs, man?
I've got a duplicate. I've got what they called when I was taking computer programming. When a business would be moving from manual bookkeeping to computerized bookkeeping, it would be smart to do a parallel transition. You keep doing the manual method while you're integrating the automation in there, just in case something went wrong, because automation is new to all them people who are trained in manual, been doing it, typing it in, and
But how do you?
I've been carrying a basic calendar at home, and I've
And you
got
go to-
calendar in my phone and calendar at home, and I keep them
But I
both.
get that. But how? Since you don't have a phone,
How do I call to make bookings?
how you can't? Nobody can call you and say, "Hey, Dave, can you play Saturday?" Because
Then I rely on my old trusty PC at home called Facebook Messenger
yeah,
and emails.
yeah, and I've been talking to you through that in the past 3 weeks. It's
Yeah,
very slow.
and that's about the various.
It's very slow.
Very slow. Yeah, because y'all can send me
because
something.
you're
Because
not
I've got a
home.
lot of other stuff going on.
You only
in
check
my
that
life
when you
right
get back
now.
to the house.
Right, and I've been spending a lot of time with my daddy, who's 96 and a half years old.
With no
Past
phone.
2 months, been going through a.
Does he got a phone?
He does.
While
He's
you're
got
there?
one of them flip phones.
In case you need to call somebody?
Yes.
You know?
You need the number?
No, but I'm just worried about you, man. You out there off the grid. I just wonder how.
In
people
some
do it.
ways, it's pleasant, but
In some ways, it's Mount Pleasant.
in a lot of ways, it's Mount Pleasant.
You're back to Mount Pleasant days.
I'm
No
about
phones.
Mount Pleasant, Dog Hill with a dirt road and no phones, except for what
I wish
Southern Bell provided us.
I wish we could get rid of all the phones, man. Screw it. But
You realize how that would screw up the entire.
yeah, we need to start from scratch, though. Stone Age.
Well, just wait on the next solar flare. That'll happen.
Hey, when it comes, we're gonna lose.
you're
When
gonna
the big one
lose
hits, we're gonna lose
credit card,
everything.
debit card.
We don't
groceries
know how much, we
ain't
don't know
gonna
how
be
much money
viable.
you had in the bank because we can't read it.
Banks ain't gonna be viable. Grocery stores ain't gonna be viable.
Zombies are coming.
Gas ain't gonna be viable because everything's done on the card. And who's it gonna go to? The people with the guns. Because probably 1 week after a brownout or a blackout where it kills all those systems,
Brownout.
1 week or 2 weeks at the most, you'll be hearing gunshots outside
Dude, I tell you what,
windows.
when the hurricane came and we were out of power for how many days was it?
10?
Yeah, it was at least a week.
Mm-hmm.
But I swear, like those apartments over there across, them all being in the dark for that long, and it being hot as hell too. Like, I swear, there was 2 more nights. If there was 2 more nights without power, I think we'd have seen some crazy shit going down because
That is exactly
they would have
right.
come in there trying to eat us. Like, it was quiet because there's no power, and I had a generator, so they're like, "Can I charge my phone?" I was like, "Oh no!"
Start eyeballing
They
your
start coming in, like
Yeah,
moving in on you.
yeah. And there's what do you have then? You if you have a gun, then you're protected to an extent until
yeah,
somebody
until
else
you're out
has
of
a
ammo.
gun. Till somebody else has a gun, then you're going to be equal again, and then it's going to be the thug mentality takes over, and I'm talking about long range, 2 weeks and beyond, power down with no way to
The Walking Dead.
collect necessities, and you have no power, you have no water. It all devolves real quick. It'll be a Walking Dead mentality. I read at one time, that the government makes these projections for a catastrophe like that in the case of a blackout or something, and they write these whole volumes of how to police it, how to respond to it. And they call the thug people they call zombies.
Mm-hmm.
They call them that
Really?
in the official governmental papers. They call them zombies because they'll be coming at you like zombies. They'll be needing to feed.
They'll be feral.
Basically,
Wow.
Basically, there'll be the need to feed.
Okay, so where was all this manuscript or whatever scenarios when it all went down in Portland?
When was that?
When they took over the whole town.
That was fairly recent.
That was in COVID.
During COVID? I don't know. I'm sure they had them.
I mean, they had the whole town taken over.
Uh,
I don't remember all the details about it because I don't.
Yeah.
You remember that, Justin?
Yeah, it devolved pretty quick.
Yeah, it gets hairy.
Right.
Hairy in a hurry.
They thought it was going to be a utopia, but
I mean, I know we could have made it the government could have went in there and made it a grease spot, but
yeah, I think it was a
you're
lot.
like, let them run a little bit. But
Yeah, I think that was part of it. They wanted to just let it ride for optics' sake.
Utopia is only good on paper
Yeah.
or in the mind. I don't know. There's many Hollywood movies based on that, the futuristic things. What was that one with, I believe it was Donald Sutherland? Maybe. No, it was,
He just died.
yeah,
he just died. It was not him. He was on my mind, though. But it was old Big Lebowski.
Oh,
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges was they called him a name, but he sat in this house on the edge of, this was a floating utopia planet
yeah,
or
I
something.
saw
He
that.
sat on the edge as the caretaker of history. Only he was allowed to see what actually happened
I watched
in our history of the world.
Wasn't it based on a book or something?
I think so. And Meryl Streep was the grand leader or the president or whatever. And every day, people would get up and eat an apple. And in this apple, it contained some kind of a solution to make them mindless about sex, color, all the things that would tempt a person to greed or whatever. And they had to replace. Jeff Bridges was an old caretaker, or whatever they called him. And so they had to wait, and they would have this ceremony amongst all the people on this planet. It must have been a small planet, but it was a utopian place. I mean, because you look at it, and there was no temptation. It's just like everybody grew up being untempted, and they would test them and everything. When the girls and boys got of age, they would say, in this ceremony, they would say, "You, Bartram B. Smithers, electronics. You, Cassidy Clutchinson, nursing." They would, and they picked one boy out because he had so many. He was EQ off the wall or something. They picked him to be trained by the caretaker, and he would go. When he became of age, he would ride his bicycle out to Jeff Bridges' house, and Jeff Bridges would touch him or something like that, and he would see, or put his hands on his temples, and he would see everything that happened to the earth, wars, catastrophes, all the history, and he'd come out of, but he was the link that, he came back home, and he was subversive enough that he'd quit biting the apple. He'd fake it somehow or another. And there was him and his buddy and girl pal would go around and it slowly started showing their connection with him, and he started seeing in color. And he started seeing her, his old girlfriend, or his old girl that he grew up with, and damn, she's hot.
So how were they reproducing if they weren't tempted by sex?
It may have been a manual reproduction and all by then, I can't remember the details. What was it called?
I'm trying to find
The Old Man?
No.
That ain't it?
The Vanishing?
No.
I just put...
Jeff Bridges movies?
Well, I put Caretaker in the line.
That might have been it. Well, Jeff Bridges, Meryl Streep. Type that in there. Sci-fi.
The Giver?
Yes. That's it.
I have not seen that.
I don't think I finished it.
That's a good one.
I think I saw the beginning of it.
That's a good one for y'all, too. Huh. All four of you.
I was thinking you thought it was older movie.
I make light, but, I do keep running into people out there that just out of nowhere will come up and say, and I don't even know some of them, come up and say, I saw that podcast, Dorsey Prothman.
What?
I saw that Dorsey Prothman podcast. I loved it. So there are people out there getting us. And we love you for it. Folks, we're approaching our 100th episode. This is 94 right here. We're 6 away from our 100th episode. It's probably going to air in November or December. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be a burner. It's going to be an earth scorcher. We got so many things planned for that one, you're bound to go for some of it. It'll probably be the debut of all the Uncle Dave's Cowboys Bunkhouse episodes. You don't know what that is? Oh. You've been watching this long enough to know, unless you watch the first 3 seconds and then quit. And then you couldn't have missed one of them because it was in the first 3 seconds.
Yeah, got front load.
Front load.
Justin, is that your daddy's jacket?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's the
FFA.
old
Can we
FFA
bring
jacket.
that out?
That's pretty awesome. Fargo.
It's been sitting in a window in the building outside.
That thing used to be royal blue.
Yeah, it got sunbathed a little bit.
Roll.
He went to Clinch County High School, but they got him to put Fargo on there. He had the only one with Fargo on it.
Hey.
He was the only one with Fargo?
Right, yeah.
You know what? I had one of these.
Yeah.
What'd yours say?
FFA in the 9th grade, maybe 9th and 10th.
What'd it say? Where county down there or what?
Well, it said Georgia.
No, he's talking
Probably
about yours.
Ware County.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, this was, your daddy was younger than me, was he?
Yeah. This would have been in the
It
late
has
70s.
your name on it over here.
Mm-hmm.
And the symbol on the left breast pocket. Your daddy was skinny, man.
Yeah, he was smaller back in those days.
Look there, the moss done got to it. Oh, look at that! I rubbed it, and some
Yeah.
some brown dust went off.
It'd be in better
fantastic,
shape,
man.
but it was hung up.
You need to frame that in some glass or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
it was hung up in front of a window so the sun shone through on it.
That's Justin's daddy.
That's his daddy's jacket.
Fargo. The west side of the swamp, the west end of the Okefenokee Swamp.
Which Burt
Don't
Reynolds?
go no further west than that.
Which Burt Reynolds movie was filmed over there?
Gator. No, that was in Valdosta.
That was
Filmed in Banks.
nothing
Lake,
was
yeah.
filmed in Fargo.
No, it was supposed to be set in the
Set in
Okefenokee.
Okay.
Yeah, but
But-
there's enough swamps over in the outlying Valdosta that
They thought Banks Lake looked more swampy than the swamp, so
it's probably more accessible.
Yeah, yeah.
You get in that damn swamp, you might not come back.
well,
out.
there ain't really no open water like
Right.
there is in Banks Lake.
No.
And that was basically the whole movie. He was running that boat wide
Running.
open, everywhere he went. So.
Yeah. Okefenokee Swamp is a mystery. Yeah. Been there for thousands of years.
Millions.
And had all kinds of races inhabited it. From the Indians. Then you had your outlaws and runners. Then you had your slaves. Then you had your colonials.
Spanish, French.
Spanish. Civil War. Deserters. Just pioneers. Basic pioneers, too. They tried to tame it. Every one of them, except the Indians, tried to tame it. Or, well, the deserters and runners, they just hid out down there. But all the settlers, the pioneers and engineers, and once Georgia became a state, then you had all that thinking, what are we going to do with this vast wasteland? Let's plant something down there and use the irrigation. And then it turned into pulpwood. That was a huge industry down there.
Well, I mean, they would have probably cut all the cypress trees down.
Well, it's always been a
stopped.
natural habitat for wildlife. The bird watchers got into it too. So you had people on both sides.
They're still trying to mess with the swamp out there.
Mining,
mining, strip
You know
mining.
what they're mining for? Some kind of silica or mineral of some sort. Yeah. My great-great-granddaddy grew up in the northeast corner of the swamp called Cowhouse Island. That's where I got Cowboy Bunkhouse from. No, his name was Peter Griffin.
Gets me every time.
He married Margaret Thrift from the other side of the county, and they raised up a bunch of children. He went off to fight in the Civil War, and he made it back alive, and else I wouldn't be here today, and you would not have a drummer.
Dang.
It's heavy, ain't it?
Thanks, Peter.
It's heavy when you start thinking about the ifs, ands, or buts.
Especially the butts.
Especially the butts. That's a big damn butt. Yeah. The fabric of life. We often talk about that on here. It's just a gossamer thread that we're all clinging to. Wind blows one way and we swing with it.
It's getting deep.
Get up one day and we decide our right leg goes this way. or by the same token, our left leg could go that way. And it opens up a whole new realm of possibilities. There's stuff been written about all that. There's movies been made about all that. I don't know what they call it. The what if?
Butterfly effect.
Butterfly effect. That's
a movie.
Similar to that. But it all depends, It depends on if you're planning on going on vacation, you're packing the car, and you run into a little snag because you're trying to get away at 8 o'clock. And, damn it, I told y'all. And you leave at 8:30. And if you'd left at 8 o'clock,
you would have died.
Somewhere on I-75
There's a big
at
wreck.
about 12:15, you'd have been right there if you'd left at 8 o'clock. What is that?
I didn't make it to the Twin Towers in time.
What is that called? Fate?
It's weird.
Yeah, because you could be just 1 minute later, and you would have
or
avoided.
the same, or the opposite. You
leave early.
You leave early or you leave late.
Yeah.
But if you'd have left on time, you'd have been fine. But since you left 30 seconds later, you
something happened. Yeah.
You pull out and a car
I'm sorry, I
runs you
can't.
over.
There's got to be a word for all this, but I'm sorry, I don't believe too highly in that. I think it's just depend because all of that we're talking about that was predestined to happen,
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's selective.
but maybe it wasn't. It was just some dumbass.
It's just all randomness.
Some dumbass that just decided to change lanes at the wrong time.
Yeah, it's just all an anthill.
Either one could be true. The universe could just be indifferent and stuff happens, or, you know, I think either one's just as likely.
Well, what it all does boil down to is what religion and Christianity is all about. They just say,
It was meant
be
to be.
prepared.
It was meant to be.
The need to be prepared.
The need for speed.
And you're either lost or you ain't.
Or you hain't.
You're either lost or you found. You're either lost or you saved. That's what it is in the great book of life. That's one that I wrote just recently. Let's see if it's in here.
You wrote the great book of life?
Well, something similar. Here it is.
Dave wrote the Bible, part 2, my take on
He
it.
got it all on one piece of paper.
I do. Where's that guitar? I don't know if I can do this.
Have you got it hooked up?
Yeah, you might have to tune it. It sounded like it was out. It probably got hot in here. Angus old.
Angus old.
Lord, forgive me. Sounds good. Let's see if I can remember this, eh? Hey?
Hey, was this Canadian?
When I die, I'm gonna leave my body, my friends, and my family behind. In the end, all I'm taking is my sin. When I see St. Peter at the pearly gates, I'll be begging him to let me in. He'll open up the book of life and say, first we gotta check your sins, boy. First we gotta check your sins. Well, I wish I hadn't stole that Hershey bar, 'cause now I just might burn in a lake of fire. And that time I took money from the offering plate. St. Peter, can't we wipe that off my slate? And I'm sorry I cheated on my history quiz. I ended up failing that, and now I'm failing this. If I hadn't got drunk and thrown in jail, I'd have a better idea where my soul might dwell. And if I'd never messed around with that farmer's wife, heck, I might have everlasting life. And I forgot about cussing my granny at the table. It ain't near as bad as Cain killing Abel. Thank God I ain't never killed a man. So maybe he'll take me just as I am. I know I drank, Lord, and I know I gambled. And I was a wandering soul, and I know that I rambled. But the Bible is filled with forgiving and forgetting. So won't you turn the other cheek, St. Peter? let me tiptoe into heaven.
Yeah. And this has been another Something in the Water.
Hey.
That's a good one.
Park sat over there, right there, and that right. Sit that right there, over there, and that chair right there, over there, and that chair right there. That what did that inspire? That it was coming back from Clayton, Georgia. We was headed for a dinner rendezvous with the Pine Box Dwellers and Paul Lee,
Yeah.
and Rachel Chastain in Clarksville at the La
Gente.
Janite.
Janite.
Hentai, let me see. And good.
Awesome.
It was good. Damn good
Fresh
food.
squeezed margaritas.
Ooh, it was a skinny margarita.
And a fat taco.
It was so good. It was on Father's Day. Just this year, we played up at Uncle Dave's Waycross Stagecoach, played a gig up at Hatch Fish Camp in Hart Farm in the mountains of Clayton, Georgia. Beautiful time, beautiful people. A lot of children running around. That's the way I like it. Well, they're so precious, you know, and children are so precious. They're so innocent. They're so, say what's on their mind, boom, out it comes, you know. Bertie gave Connor a rock, I believe it was. It might have been a piece of bark or something. I think it was a quartz or some kind of rock. She said, "When you see this, you will remember me."
That was these little, she gave me one too, these little tiny shells out of the river that she'd found.
That's it. And if you saw this
Every
child,
time you see this, remember me.
if you saw this child, folks, Andy Johnson's daughter.
What a cute kid.
Oh, my goodness. She's going to be a deal breaker one day.
Heartbreaker.
She's going to make something happen in this world. She's raised upright.
She needs to become a blues singer. Bertie Mae Johnson? Come on. If that ain't a blues name.
Bertie Mae Johnson is
Bertie
ideal. Ideal. And her daddy does play slide guitar. So, yeah. We're looking for big things out of Bertie.
Big Bird. What you got on that tale of the week?
I got a good one.
Is it Cadillac Dave?
No, sir. We coming up. We approaching a landmark. Speaking of children, we're approaching a landmark celebration now.
Connor?
Has to do with everyone. Connor Griffin is going to be 31 years old in 6 days, folks. Count them. July the 7th. And if y'all know him on Facebook, social media.
Ingram Connor Griffin,
named after, well, we'll get into all that. But y'all know him out there and wish him well. I'm going to quote 2 lines out of a song that I wrote called High I Was. It's on my first CD, from American Spirit from 2010, Uncle Dave and the Young'uns.
It's a good one.
It said, spent the new year in the van. 40 father had no plan. Held the boy child in my hand. Love I've come to understand. Literally, in my hand. That was when he was half grown right there. When he was born, he looked more like that little voodoo doll in the corner there. That little old sailor doll or whatever that is.
That's cool. Lee Greenwood came and saw him.
Lee Greenwood and Trudy.
Trudy.
You have a very sick lady in there. We're doing what we can to stabilize her, were the words coming out of the mouth of the heart specialist at Baptist Medical Center in Jacksonville, Florida on July 6, 1993. They were referring to my wife, Lynn, who was 6 months pregnant, carrying the baby boy we planned on naming Ingram Connor Griffin. Weeks earlier, she came to the post office stamp counter where I was busy selling stamps, and she stood in line, finally making it to my window, beaming with the news. "You're going to have a son." I suppose there's not a richer blessing to a man's ears than those words. Lineage and legacy intact? Check. We had lunch that afternoon at Strickland's Diner in Waycross, Georgia, home of the finest grilled cheeseburger in the history of grilled cheeseburgers.
I hear that.
My God,
Man,
where have they gone?
And you can still taste it, can't you?
Oh, my God. Still long for it.
Yeah.
We sat at our table discussing the all-important baby name. Lynn spoke first. "I think we should name him David Everett Griffin Jr." I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody. There was always a leaning among the boys I grew up with on Dog Hill that as we aged, married, and fathered children, our offspring would be named in honor of our musical heroes. Brother Gary was the oldest and the first to procreate, naming his firstborn David Graham Griffin in honor of Graham Parsons. So Graham was off the table. Being a fan of Parsons' music, I told my wife that I had always dreamed of naming my son after the musician who spent the first 12 years of his life in Waycross, Georgia, with the name Ingram Cecil Connor III. She fell in with me. Thus, Ingram Connor would soon be part of the family. All was well until Lynn's obstetrician casually dismissed her claims that something wasn't right. She was experiencing swelling of her feet and ankles. A simple chore like getting dressed in the morning left her exhausted and out of breath. Her blood pressure was higher than normal. The genius baby doctor said, "Pregnant women have high blood pressure. It's not uncommon. Go home and push back from the table." Son. 4th of July weekend was upon us, and we were invited to a cookout at the home of Deb Rouse, a registered nurse at our local hospital. Deb checked Lynn's blood pressure while we were there and suggested that she see her obstetrician immediately following the holiday. That was Saturday evening, July 3rd. The next morning, I woke up and found Lynn sitting asleep on the couch with a pillow prop behind her back, unable to lay flat without choking. I called Deb Rouse back up. She came over and took another blood pressure reading and told us to go to the emergency room now. The good doctor never bothered to check in until early Tuesday morning, July 6th. Had it not been for Dr. Earl Martin, an off-duty physician and friend of the family and Lynn's doctor through some of her earlier childbirths, this story would have turned out much differently. He took one look at the mother-to-be and ordered her to be ambulanced down to Baptist Medical Center, where she was placed in the neonatal wing of the hospital. The dire news that Lynn's mother and I received that Tuesday evening was a hard punch in the stomach. She was diagnosed with toxemia and congestive heart failure as the fluids had climbed from her ankles and were filling her lungs. My mother-in-law and I began calling family, and in a matter of hours, a prayer chain had been established stretching from North Georgia to South Florida. The team of doctors, including heart and pediatric specialists, were working hand in hand, attempting to stabilize her and emphasizing that there was only a small window of opportunity to surgically remove our son. It was in God's hands. Somewhere during the wee morning hours of July 7th, Lynn's vital signs began to improve. She told me later of the vision she had while under medication of seeing a happy, laughing 2-year-old Connor wearing a yellow T-shirt, sporting blue and white Nike tennis shoes, and rolling a ball in our front yard. You know that actually happened.
Really?
It did. I don't know about the colors, but says Lynn, from that moment on, I knew everything would be all right in the state that she was in. She just felt calmness, and everything in her world, as far as vitals and everything, doctors and everything, began to get better. And now it turned to the window. The heart specialist finally gave the go-ahead for a cesarean operation that Wednesday afternoon. The neonatal people were telling me that the placenta was already tearing itself off the wall to be discharged. You know,
Mm-hmm.
had it gone a little too long, a little too further,
If they didn't get
a little too many more minutes later, the placenta would have tore completely off, and Connor would have gone.
Yeah.
Or whatever happens, you know. It was heavy. It was heavy. And miraculously, Connor came into the world weighing a mere 2 pounds, 0.06 ounces. He remained in the neonatal unit, intensive care unit, for 16 weeks until we finally brought him home on October 26th. And that day was a happy day. We picked him up from Baptist Medical and strapped him in that car seat in the very back, and on the Ford Econoline van on that back couch, which he would ride in for many years to come and hear many musical revelations would happen in his head in that same spot. Mm-hmm. But as we crossed the St. Mary's River, the Georgia-Florida state line, I mashed play, and it was Graham Parsons' song that I had playing as it came across that river. Connor grew up surrounded by love and music. Throughout his life, he has exemplified the true nature of both. He's a better Christian and a better drummer than I ever was or ever will be. That right there is from Graham Parsons when he was probably about 9 years old. That's Ashton Herod right there with him. They were probably singing Miller's Cave.
Miller's Cave, yeah.
Or
and Ashton said, "There's some ghosts back there in the woods."
Ashton had a speech impediment.
There's
he
ghosts
said,
back in
"Y'all don't go back there.
In the woods.
We heard voices coming out of the woods." Now look at him.
Now he's the voice.
Right now, Connor is the manager of the Bacon County Library. He drums with the acclaimed Pine Box Dwellers of Waycross, writes original songs, and still finds time to talk to his mom and daddy. This week, we celebrate his 31st birthday, wishing him all the love and blessings this life has to offer. Speaking of life, we all know how hard it can be. Sometimes just being born is quite a struggle in itself, kind of like straddling between two rocks in a hard place.
Yeah.
We love you, buddy. I love that man right there. He won badass.
He badass.
He badass. That was our trip out April. I still can't believe that happened. I love these pictures.
Look at that.
I love these pictures that prove that we were there. God, that was so great. It was so awe-inspiring and overwhelming to me at the time. I think I was just numbed out to a lot of it. And to be able to have these pictures to look back on it just kind of brings me back into it in a numbed state. And
We were so tired driving.
And it makes me appreciate it even more. I mean, you can look at the beautiful blue sky, the formations, and say,
wow,
damn, we was there. We was right there. Looks like white lines going down to the left of him there. White lines in the desert. That's probably a roadrunner's highway. Somebody was telling me the other night, I was telling them about waking up in Mexican Hat, Arizona, where we spent the night in the yurt.
In the yurt.
And I said, we woke up next morning, Walter said, because it was pitch black when we got there. We walked outside, and I swear to God, it looked like a
Looney Tunes.
Looney Tunes cartoon out there.
Because it was like a balanced rock, which was Mexican Hat, I guess.
Yeah, it was.
Like
it
up
looked
there,
like a hat
sombrero on top of a
pinnacle.
pinnacle.
It was great. And they went further, and they said, you know, I did some research. I was reading about that, and actually the coyote can run faster than a roadrunner. But, he said, they're able to turn corners like this.
Yeah.
They'll be hauling ass to go,
Yep.
and coyote goes, skids.
Off a cliff. Tied to an anvil.
I think the beauty of those was the non-dialogue,
Yeah.
except for meep, meep.
Yeah.
It's like coyote was, I think he spoke in a few of them, but very few.
Just hold up the sign.
He was always,
I remember.
it's very visual cartoon.
I remember it came. It was like the world premiere of Coyote Catches the Roadrunner, and it came on at night, like it was
Prime time.
like a prime time
Of course.
thing.
There's a lot
Do you
of
remember that?
generations.
Do you remember that?
No.
It was in the 70s,
I don't, but
or 80s maybe, but
you're talking about multi-generations.
But
that
it
had
was the
watched those
one where
cartoons.
they run through all these pipes, and they get bigger and smaller because the pipes get, and they keep going and they keep coming out, and one's big, one's small, and he finally catches him, but he's like huge, and he's like,
What do I do with this?
he's like meep meep.
So, careful what you wish for. Dog spends all that time chasing them trucks. Finally catches one. What's he gonna do? Well then, what do you say,
Goodbye.
folks? Be sure and subscribe, retaliate, rate,
Comment.
comment, email us.
Be kind,
Call,
rewind.
Be kind, rewind. Stay tuned because we're coming up to the number 100 episode, and I know y'all going to enjoy the heck out of that one. We have a big birthday cake with a lot of candles and a lot of previous guests on here, and we're liable to do something crazy. But we appreciate you being here with us as long as you have. And we hope that you'll stick with us even further because we're going for the gold ring. We're going for Coyote Gets the Roadrunner in this thing. Thank you for watching.
When the cold black water finds its way across through your veins, it just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate. It just might seal your fate.